This first page is your purchase price addendum. It is going to list here your new home address. It will list in paragraph B is your floor plan that you're investing in. Paragraph C lists your lender, the title company we're going to be using, and if you have a realtor, this is where their information goes. It also lists the summary of the purchase price. So this has any lot premiums or any adjustments or anything that we've done to the home, giving you a grand total here. Paragraph E is your summary of options and upgrades. This is also where we put our included features in here. They're basically place markers for our purchasing department. Here are your escrow changes. So if there's anything that we've added to the agreement, any added incentive or additional seller contributions or money we've deposited or that you've deposited. Contributions and allowances. This is we don't use a title. We don't use a design center anymore, so we don't use this. But if we do by closing at DHI title, we do pay your owner's title policy, as you see here. The PPA is part of the contract. It will list any additional deposits that we receive. It also lets you know that, for example, if your closing costs were less than the $5,000 that we give, that is not something that we refund back to the buyer. Any incentives are like that. In the amenitary clause for FHA loans only, it basically says that if the home does not appraise, you have the right and the privilege to cancel your agreement and walk away. And this is the entire agreement of this portion. Your real estate purchase contract, this is you. This is D.R.Horton. You're investing in property here, otherwise known as the home, in the enclave at Abner Crossing or whatever particular community that we're operating out of. Your purchase price is here. This is where your earnest money is, and if we've collected any additional deposits, they'll be here. These funds are deposited in our general account and are not refundable. Here is where we list whether it's a cash transaction or you're seeking financing. If you are seeking financing, you have 5 calendar days from contract date to get that into place. In construction, this tells us that the seller, we hold on to the right to be able to deviate from construction materials of similar or higher quality. If it's not complete on the day of construction and we have not been able to set a closing date, this lets you know that due to adverse weather or extreme conditions, we actually have up to 2 years to build your home. It will not take that long, and we don't foresee any of that happening. Your buyer's obligations during construction and risk of loss. This speaks to you being on the construction site. You're welcome to come out and visit your home. We do ask that you have one of us there with you, but in the case that we're not able to be there with you, know that it is a dangerous construction site. So you are there and your guests are there at your own peril. So this this lets you know that you are at your own peril, so we cannot be sued if something happens to you. If the home has not been constructed, we ask you to take care of your design center. We don't do that anymore, so we don't need to speak to that. In casualty, this is where we talk about things of nature, fire, earthquakes, weather that could damage your home or affect closing dates. We are responsible for the home prior to you taking ownership. After you take ownership, you are responsible. You and your insurance will be responsible for that. D.R. Horton provides 2 different warranties. You have a 1-year door-to-door that covers good and the workmanship of the home, covers it door-to-door. So if it breaks due to our craftsmanship, then we will fix it. And we also have a 10-year RWC warranty, talking about down here, or excuse me, here, the 10-year RWC Residential Warranty Corporation warranty. Title, you as a buyer, as part of your title fees and everything is an attorney review. So he will look at the title, ensuring that we don't have any issues with the title. And that's done via the title company and part of your closing costs. By using DHI Mortgage, we do cover your owner's title policy, so you don't have any additional costs in regards to that. Sellers, we reserve the right to set the date and time and place of closing, referred to as a closing date. We typically do not set closing dates until we are much closer, but we will set those. Once we're all in agreement of that date, if it deviates if it deviates and we are delayed for whatever reason, at no harm by D.R.Horton, then we can't impose a late fee. Closing costs, at closing, the buyer is responsible for certain fees. They are listed out here. You're responsible for all those fees, and the seller, we are responsible for our fees. Utilities, we guarantee that the home will have electricity, water, and gas hooked up. You are not obligated to close if we do not have those, so you can inspect the property. Appraised value, this contract is not contingent upon an appraisal. However, if it's a FHA or VA loan, you do have, if the property does not appraise, you have the option of either paying the difference and continuing to move forward in the agreement, or in the escape clause for FHA loans and VA loans, you have the right to cancel the contract, and no harm, no foul. Defaults and remedies. This is a big paragraph, but the essence of it is that if you believe we are not living up to our end of the contract, that you notify us within 20 days, and then from the receipt of something that you believe we failed at, and we have 20 days to respond. Dispute resolution. This is where, if we as the parties involved in the transaction, we reach a point where we can't communicate, D.R.Horton would ask you to go to mediation. If we go through there and can't get it resolved, we'd then go to arbitration. And we are waiving jury trial. This keeps us from suing each other, basically. So we believe there's a win-win in there somewhere. For your broker licensee, if you have a realtor working with you, representing you, this is where we let you know that we are compensating them. Possession of your home will be after you go to closing. Time is of the essence. So time is of the essence. What that means is we have to be punctual and speedy about getting things accomplished so that we can reserve the home for you. Acceptance by the seller. This is where D.R.Horton accepts what we have written. I do not have the ability to execute a contract for them, but based on what we projected or what we put together in the contract, when D.R.Horton approves the contract, that makes it a bona fide contract for all of us. Recording of the contract, you cannot record your contract in real property records. You can't record the contract because you don't own the property. Once we convey it to you, it is recorded. Severability means that if at some point something in our contract became null and void or illegal, or otherwise invalid, severability gives us the ability to just cut that part out and continue together. These are all the documents. Not all are applicable. In fact, most are not, but this is a universal agreement, so we put them in there. This is the entire agreement. There's no oral representations. One thing about D.R.Horton is we do not do anything verbally. Everything has to be in writing for it to be executable, and keeps us both with the right expectations. This is going to be, if it's your primary residence, this is where this notes that you're acknowledging that you are not an investor and that you will be living in the property. If you are an investment property, or if this is an investment property, this is where this is. Exhibit A is your legal description of your property. So the legal description, you very seldom need this, but it is here. So it's lot 27. In this case, it's lot 27, block 4 of section 1. That's where your legal description of the property would be. The builder's incentive addendum. The builder's incentive addendum is anything that we're doing for you. In this case, we're referring to the $5,000 that we supply by you using DHI Mortgage. And it also lets you know that that is contingent upon you actually doing that. So our notice of seller's business affiliations, this lets you know we have to disclose to you that we own a whole bunch of different companies. You're aware of the construction company, obviously. We own a title company, and we also own a mortgage company and an insurance company. These are those addendums that was on that big list. So our covenants and restrictions govern how we live in our home and are designed by the HOA. It talks about the maintenance operation of the residential community and how we live in our homes. Laws, restrictions, and ordinances affecting the property. We can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but know that there are regulations that can come into play, that how it affects all of our properties. Community development, we as the builder we as the builder have no way to, we as the builder reserve the right to, in community development, in future phases, we may change floor plans, the home sites may be different size, but all is that reserved to the builder and the developer. Road construction, there very well may be future roads. We don't have any way to project that in the future. But you can always check if that's important to you to see what's going to go on in the future of the community. Tax rates are not set by the seller. They are set by the municipalities. So we have no control over your tax rates now or in the future. Zoning, development, status of surrounding property, annexation. So D.R.Horton does not have the seller has no ability to represent or provide any assurances to you guys about what's going to be developed around the community. So that is your own due diligence, if that's important to you to know that. Construction, location of utility improvements. We don't have the ability, as we future develop, where those utility lines and locations are going to be at, what they're going to be constructed of, or what they're going to be used for. So we just note that here. Landscaping, trees. This speaks to your grass, your landscaping, and your trees. These are not warranted items. You will want to take good care of those so you don't have any issues with that. Street trees. These belong to the community. So these are the trees along the streets or in the right-of-way. They don't belong to you, so please don't remove those. Common area maintenance is currently maintained by the seller, the developer, the association, and these entities. Amenities and park disclosures. This is where we speak to any pavilions, if we have a park, any amenities. We can't promise things in the future, but this is where we note where those things are. And it's at the discretion of the seller when those features get put in. We're not near any wetlands, or if you were, this just lets you know that there may be water there may be wildlife there. We don't have those in this community. Retaining walls and French drains. Retaining walls and French drains are put in by the builder or developer But ultimately, once you own your home, you are responsible for those things, just the ones that are on your property. So not the community ones or anything like that. If you are shared with another party, the home next door, then it's a community thing, and both of you are responsible for your portions. Moisture and mold prevention. So when excess water accumulates in your home, it can create mold or moisture damage. We just encourage you to continuously run your air conditioning and look for moisture accumulation and mold growth. So attend to that tidy. Foundation maintenance and soil conditions. We encourage you, and it is a buyer's responsibility, to look for expansive soils. So when you have movement here in the soil in Oklahoma, which it will move, just pay attention. So if you need to run your sprinkler system or a soaker hose or something like that, so you don't have quite so much soil prevention. This helps you keep from cracking and separation of the building materials. Just keeps your home a little bit safer. School boundaries. We acknowledge that the boundaries of the school that we're in today could change. We're not aware of it, but we also don't make it a guarantee that nothing will ever change. The sex offender registry can be found online. It's maintained by the state. If that's important to you, that can easily be looked up. Notice water level fluctuations. This is where we speak to if you adjoin to a pond or a lake or things like that. We can't guarantee any certain water level or anything like that, or that we can't guarantee that nothing will flood in our lifetime. So we're not responsible for that. Flood zone designation, to date, we're not in any, but this speaks to the different level of the floodplains. There's 100-year floodplains, 500-year floodplains. The property we are on is not in one. Flooding, we all know, we acknowledge that water levels can change. We don't have any control over that. So if there is flooding, it is the buyer's responsibility. Just be aware of it. If it becomes necessary, you can purchase flood insurance. There may be railroads adjacent to the property. We don't have any in our community. Pipelines and drill sites. Another thing, this is Oklahoma, we could have dormant pipelines underneath our area. Typically when they do have an easement over them for your safety, but we don't have any in this community. Lack of the surface and mineral rights. So you know as a homeowner that you only own the surface of the land. The mineral rights, or what the ground underneath your home, is typically owned by other people, and they reserve the right to use that resource. We do not use septic systems in this community. We don't use propane tanks. Utility rates are set by those municipalities, so we can't represent any of those costs. Severe weather conditions, we encourage the seller to be responsible. Homes are not entirely waterproof, so it's the buyer's responsibility to make sure their windows are caulked. Pay attention to your home as you're living in it, and just know that extreme weather can affect it. So look out for leaks and things like that around French doors and things like that. Concrete, stucco, and fixtures. We know that concrete turns gray and it cracks, so there can be shrinkage and things that can cause cracking. These are cosmetic conditions and do not impact the quality of the home. It is not a warranted item. Color and building material variances. We all know, or the buyer understands, that color and building material variance from lot to lot can be different. So there may be some variances in your home just due to manufacturing processes. Location and orientation. This is, if you've seen your home, you know what directions it faces and you know how it's oriented on the home side. If not, the We typically show you that with the plot plan of where everything is. Cluster mailboxes, we don't use them in this community. If we do, they're duly noted, and you'll receive a key to your particular mailbox and location. Investor homes and investor maintenance, we know that the builder or developer may sell homes to non-owner occupied. The actual percentage of the homes sold to investors vary. The number of investment homes and rentals will not be monitored by us. Notice regarding service providers, we're not responsible for the timing and location of internet, cable, telephone, and phone locations. The utility companies do that themselves. Third-party marketing agreements, for example, we use Safe Haven as part of the services of your home and your smart home system. They do give you the option to purchase further equipment or security and things like that. But occasionally we enter into third-party marketing, things like that, just to give you added more service. We provide you with notice if we're sharing any of your personal information, but due to the Privacy Act, we do not do that. Impervious cover restrictions, this speaks to, so impervious are human-made surfaces that don't affect water or filter rainfall well. So you understand that local government have rights and regulations limiting the amount of those covers and where you can put them. So just be aware of that. The insulation of your home, it's an R15 in your walls, R30 in vaulted ceilings, we don't have any, and R38 blown insulation in your attic. And that is the entire agreement today.